This is a landscape with peaks and valleys, and the only way to find your way through is to keep going. And that's what building a YouTube channel can feel like. One day you're on top of the world, the next you're trapped in a valley of low views seeing nothing but fog. Which brings up a bigger question. How do you stop wandering aimlessly through an unpredictable landscape and start building a sustainable business? Because finding your direction requires more than just following somebody else's path. And that is why I wanted to chat with Rick, a photographer who turned the lens on himself. And building an audience wasn't even the biggest challenge.
If I'd have just started another photography channel and talked about cameras, I don't think it would have had the same impact.
We met years ago and stayed friends, which feels important to mention because he's one of the people that inspired me to keep going. So let's look at the reality behind the content to see what success looks like for him. I think you just unlocked something in my brain.
I don't know how, but...
But the big difference between you and I is that you stuck to one channel and more or less one niche, where I was bouncing around. I think from 2020 until now, I started like 4 or 5 different channels.
I'm not sure I knew that you started that many.
That's why I want to sit down with you and compare notes.
Sounds good. I'm looking forward to chatting about it too, because obviously when we spoke last time, I mean, I knew nothing compared to what I know now, I think. And I don't really even remember what I said in that. I think I'd had a breakout video that had gone crazy out of nowhere. And I feel like I was still trying to figure it out a bit. To be honest, I still feel like I'm trying to figure it out a bit now. And I think most YouTubers feel a little bit like that because it is just a constantly evolving place.
There's a saying in German that like everybody's cooking with water. But for somebody, if somebody wants to understand where you are now, what is something you want them to know about Rick? What is something that makes your story make sense?
I suppose the biggest thing is for most of my adult life, really, I've kind of felt a bit, not totally directionless, just a bit lost, just kind of looking for some way of making a connection with the world and with the people in it, I suppose. And I think I found in my 20s that way I was supposed to do that was photography. But it then took me a good 10, 15 years to kind of work out how to do that through photography, understand the place that photography had in my life, and kind of how I could use what I'd learned in my journey throughout that to help others almost find their own sort of direction.
And what was the point where you needed to take this to YouTube? Like what compelled you to like put videos online in addition to taking photographs?
Probably since about 2015. And I definitely remember speaking to you about this the last time we spoke.
Yeah.
And it was in the Casey Neistat vlog era. And some of his videos reminded me of stuff I used to do when I was a kid. My dad was into photography and making videos as well. And he had an old camcorder. And I used to quite often pick that up and just make stupid videos with my friends. This is kind of when I was about 13, 14, around that age. And I had so much fun doing that. And then when I saw what Casey was doing, I thought, well, why can't I have fun like that now? And really, there's no reason apart from our own kind of egos, I suppose. And I think you kind of think about things a lot more as an adult, and you overthink things a lot more as an adult. Mm-hmm. When you're a kid, you just do something without kind of question. And it took me a long time of thinking, what is it I want to do with a camera pointed at myself that A, will give me fulfillment, and B, people will want to watch. I say quite often that I think you should create with yourself in mind first, whether that's videos, whether that's photos, whether that's paintings, anything whatsoever. But a part of me did want other people to get something from it as well. And I'm not sure why that was, but that's definitely remained and grown over the last decade.
So how did it develop for you then? Like, because I think you uploaded your first video around 2019, and like, when do you had the feeling that this makes sense, or what happened until the YouTube thing made sense for you and kind of became part of your how you make a living?
I mean, it made sense to me in 2019. I just didn't really do anything with it. 2019 was the point where I quit my 9 to 5, which was a job as a studio photographer and filmmaker, and I went freelance. And I guess part of the rationale behind that was I get to pick and choose what I do and who I work with, and hopefully that will lead to me having a bit more time available to actually make stuff to put on YouTube as well. And that's when I started doing that. The problem was I didn't really know what I want to put on YouTube. I knew that I wanted it to be something to do with photography and cameras, because that was kind of what I spent most of my time doing. And I also knew I wanted it to be, I suppose, try and be a bit different to what everyone else is doing as well. But I just didn't know what that was. It was just almost like a perfect storm of self-doubt that basically meant I'd make a video every so often. And some would do okay and some really wouldn't do okay. And I just didn't know which sort of string to pull on, I suppose. And most of it was probably down to that self-doubt and the, I don't know, fear of being judged and all of that kind of stuff that stops us from making things, I suppose. So towards the end of 2023, for about a year or so, I put out more videos. It wasn't consistent videos. I probably put one out on average every 2 to 3 weeks. And that was during that time that I had that breakout video that we spoke about last time. So there were a lot of signs over that time that this could work. I picked up a few sponsors here and there, and I had some videos do really well. And there was, I don't know, there was still just something stopping me from doing it every week. And I don't know what that was.
I've always been intentional about creating in seasons, but the longer I'm in this game, the more I see how the consistency compounds over time. But I find it still incredibly challenging. Do you have some kind of systems or?
The best way I found to work is to work to deadlines. If I've not got a deadline, then something doesn't get done. So I set myself deadlines. So I had the deadline of one video every single week, and I just kept doing it because that was my aim. Now, if I want to get anything out, whether it's a project or launch a cohort that I'm looking to do at the moment, I found what I have to do is I have to announce it, basically, and announce when it's going to happen, and then it'll get done. If I just say coming soon, I'll still be saying coming soon in 6 months' time.
So using the audience as like a accountability partner.
Basically, yeah. Yeah, that's exactly it.
To be fair, this is something I hear from so many creators, because the hard part isn't knowing that consistency matters. The hard part is staying consistent when you're unsure, when things get blurry and you have to make a bunch of decisions by yourself. That is why I started the Creator Trust Club, because people that survive the messy middle don't do it because of some secret hack. They do it because they have people around them that support them, give them accountability, and help them make better decisions. So if you are a creator who knows what they're doing but feels a little bit lost, you can join us, become a Creator Trust Club member. The link is down in the description. About the consistency, or about the making video aspect of YouTube, because like, if you're not making videos, you're not a YouTuber. That's as simple as that, right? You just have to put something out there and boom, you're a YouTuber. Wow, congratulations. But when you're in this wheel, or in this routine of making one video a week, how much do you think about like what the next video is? Do you just have like an ongoing list and you like throw a dart, or do you strategize in any way, or is it purely a gut feeling?
It's a bit of a mix, to be honest. You'll be surprised to hear that I don't plan very far ahead. I do have a list of ideas. I do spend time thinking about ideas. But a lot of the time it's just looking at that, and it's kind of a combination of what video do I want to make this week, and also a bit of a sort of gut feeling towards it as well. Sometimes, depending on what sponsors I'm working with, I only really work with sponsors whose stuff I use, and therefore I'm able to tie those in with the videos in appropriate ways. So that will at times impact the type of video that I make. It's just making sure that I'm not sat here on a Monday morning not having any clue as what to what I should do. I can look at a list quite easily and go, right, I want to make that one this week. And then there's other times where I do go away and I take a bunch of photos and go on some sort of photography adventure, and those will lend themselves naturally to a future video. So there is, when I've got time when I'm going away, so I'm going away next month, I've got a piece of kit that I'm taking with me. So I know at that point I'm making a video about this particular thing.
Do you still have any kind of expectations when you publish a video, or is the expectation just to publish it?
I try not to, but it can be difficult at times. I still find this element of it quite hard, and this is the bit of it that I still feel like I don't. Well, you can be humbled quite quickly. You think you know, and then you quickly realize that you don't. So I've had a few videos where I thought, oh, this will do pretty well, and then it's been like 10 of 10.
Yeah,
absolutely bombed. And you're like, what on earth? And so when you put the time and effort into a video that you think is going to do okay, for it not to can be disappointing. But the more I do it, the more I see from kind of comments and messages that I get from the people that watch my videos. I don't think there's a single one where I've not had someone say this has been really helpful to me. And I've always approached it with a kind of view of, if this is going to help someone, then I've done my job.
What were the revenue streams that you've built, or how did money come in, and in which order?
So the first, I mean, AdSense was first, but it's never anything to really write home about. I mean, it's a nice to have, don't get me wrong, but it's not paying all the bills. It's not putting food on the table. And around a similar time, it was probably affiliate revenue as well. I've kind of found that to really maximize that feels like an awful lot of admin work that I'm just not really prepared to do. On from that, I set up a physical print store. That is very difficult to kind of make money off consistently, purely because, well, there's so many people doing it. You need to constantly be shouting about it for people to actually realize what you're selling. And it's also just a lot of work in kind of sending them out and actually preparing them, like to kind of package and to print, package and send out one print can take like an hour. So as a use of time, it's not actually that efficient. So therefore, because of that, I don't tend to shout about it too much. I had some success of selling digital products like presets, photo editing presets mainly. But again, you don't mention them and no one buys them. It's not like people are just kind of jumping on your website to see if you're selling presets. That just doesn't seem to happen. More recently, sort of the last year or so, I've been generating more revenue by actually working with people in my audience. So last year I opened up one-to-one coaching with people that see my videos, basically to try and help them through difficulties they were having with photography and creativity in their life. So I mentioned earlier about helping people kind of find direction. Everything that I kind of do, not just in my videos, but in that as well, is basically as if I'm talking to a younger version of myself. And I find that approach really helps with that. So I had a lot of success with that. last year. And everything I've learned from that, I'm now building into kind of a group cohort program that, as I alluded to, I have announced the launch of to make myself actually do it. I mean, it's been a lot of work, to be honest. There's a lot of stuff that I wanted to be right. I want it to be the best experience possible. And I'm launching that next month. So what I've not mentioned in all of that is sponsorship. And up until more recently, kind of November last year, that's been a bit more inconsistent. And sponsorship obviously helps, but I don't necessarily think it's something that I want to beholden to in the long term, because it's what I spoke about before. If you kind of desperate for a video to do well because it's got a sponsor attached to it and then it doesn't, that has an impact on whether or not they'll work with you again, or whether or not future sponsors will work with you. And I think that a lot of sponsors still are tied to kind of views and stuff like that. Whereas I think the way I've built my channel is the audience connection is much more important. And going down the route I'm going to try and help people in my audience that are struggling is, I feel like it's a better way to work, knowing that there's that impact on people, actually getting people towards the thing that deep down they really want to do. It's insanely rewarding.
The one follow-up question that's stuck in my head is, with the coaching and with the upcoming cohort, is that something you are continuously shouting about, or is this kind of just on the website, so to speak?
I mention it every so often.
Okay.
And I don't want to turn my videos into just like a sales pitch, basically.
Because there's a balance to it.
There is. And there are nods to it. There are mentions to it. I speak about it more probably through my newsletter when I decide to actually write one. But I don't want to turn into someone that sounds like they're just selling something all the time. And I think that's been obvious by how infrequently I mention stuff like prints and presets and stuff like that. But also, you get to a point where you do need to earn a bit more money. So trying to find that balance, I think, can be difficult.
One other thing I'm super curious about is that when it comes to photography, you obviously have done it for nearly 20 years. You have developed a recognizable style, at least I would say that. Do you also feel like you have developed some kind of style when it comes to the videos, or do you do anything active to develop a style? And I wonder if you have any insight into that.
I think that's something a lot of photographers get a bit obsessed with, is having a style and working towards a style. And I think the only way that you actually find any kind of style in photography, and probably in the videos you make as well, is just by doing it more. You can't kind of create it out of nothing. It just comes from doing the same thing again and again, and working out which bits of it you like, which bits of it you don't like, what you're drawn to. And I think over time, these start to all stick together and turn into something a little bit more recognizable. A lot of it is learning about what fits with you. And when you start to do more of what fits with you, more of who you are is transferred into that. And you can, let's go back to Casey Neistat and look at his style. His style is like that because he is who he is. And it doesn't work really for anyone else because they are different people. They can copy it, but it doesn't make it their style. If they continue to kind of copy it and over time realize, I prefer to do this way and I'm going to stop doing that, it will evolve into something different, but it needs those months and years to do that.
We're all a little bit in this like messy middle where things are working, but it's still a roller coaster up and down. What's your advice to somebody who's like going through that right now?
Where I wish I'd approached it differently is to not stop when I was unsure, which is very easy to say, but also very difficult to do. I feel like I wasted a lot of time because I had the ability to make videos, but I wasn't sure what they wanted to be or what they wanted to be about. And I suppose this ties a little bit in with the style thing earlier. You'll get to that point where you know what your videos are or what they're about a lot quicker if you're just making them than if you're sat there thinking about it. I think if I'd have created more consistently in those early days in 2019, 2020, 2021, I'd have got a lot further along a lot quicker than I did, basically. I understand that that's very hard to do, and it's very easy for me to say now that I have made some sort of progress. But if I could go back and do it again, that's the thing I'd change.
It's often as simple as that. Just keep doing it.
Do you know what? That's a really key word, is simplicity. And this is the case with making videos for YouTube. It's the case with photography as well. And both of those things are really quite simple acts, but we often overcomplicate them to an insane level. And it's that overcomplication that basically makes us get in the way of ourselves, I think.
What do you think about where you are now and where you maybe thought you would be now? What does success actually look like for you?
I don't think I ever really had an idea of what success would look like. I think when I started doing it more consistently, success looked like I can sustain my life by making videos, kind of mean from a sort of financial point of view. I wouldn't need to take on any more freelance work. And ultimately that remains the goal. But it's changed now because of the things I've done over the last year. I want it to impact other people positively as well. And this ties into kind of that journey of working out what kind of my channel was. And although it is a photography channel, in a lot of senses it's kind of like where photography meets life advice. And I've had that quite a lot in the comments. And I think tying the two together in that way has helped me kind of frame it in a way that makes sense to a lot of people in my audience and makes sort of more sense to me as well.
I think you just unlocked something in my brain a little bit.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I don't know how, but
by mentioning the blend between photography and life advice, there's a concept of in movies, you have an A story and you have a B story, right? And I think if you have a channel that has an A story and a B story, it probably lends itself much more to long-term success.
Yeah. And that's kind of, it's not the reason I've done it, but I think it's helped. It has definitely helped. If I'd have just started another photography channel and talked about cameras and talked about lenses and settings and composition and everything else, I don't think it would have had the same sort of impact in terms of views and stuff as it has done. I might be completely wrong. I don't know, but that's my instinct.
And as always, there's an extended version of this conversation over on the Patreon, the Creator Trust Club. There we get into his ADHD and how we do or don't celebrate wins. So if you want to support this channel, get some bonus content and guidance on your own creator journey, I would love to see you there.